Are you? This is Arian.
Hey, Arian.
Hey.
How are you?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm fine, thanks. I was just calling you. I didn't know how we were gonna do this handoff. So
Yeah.
you're here.
So yeah.
Good.
So I guess I can stay here with you for a little bit.
Okay.
Right now we just ended our last session.
Okay. Sure.
So people should be coming into sessions now. Let me see. Hey, Krista, I guess I didn't send you that link, did I? Yeah. No. Don't do that. Yeah. Everything has a different session. I got you. It's coming to you. Yes. Yes. You should have it now. Yeah. Hit refresh. Yeah, I'm right. Are you good to go on the slide, Peter?
Sure.
Okay. Sweet. Yes. Sorry, so many things going on at once. So, yeah, people should be coming in a second. Are you
Okay.
good to go?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Sweet. So,
what are you going to do a quick intro, or do you want me to just kind of wait a few minutes and go? What are you going to give me a signal when you want me to start?
As soon as you see people come in, pretty much for the breakout sessions, I guess we should have explained that a little bit more. I guess I never sent. Did I ever send you the demo link? Oh, somebody's answering right now. So yeah, so pretty much you would do your own introduction.
Okay.
But we're just gonna wait a little bit for people to come into the room.
Sure. How will I know when people have come in?
So if you see at the top the little eyeball with the number 2.
Yeah.
It's 2 of us here now. It was
That's you and me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess they just left out. But also what you can do is if you click people to the right hand side where it says chat, polls, and people.
Okay.
And then click people.
All right.
And then click session.
Session. Okay.
Yep. That shows you how many people are here.
Okay. I have never heard of this platform, but it's pretty well designed, it seems to me. Do you like it?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I love it. It's pretty cool. Hey, we have Jonathan in the room that just entered. Jonathan, we're going to wait a little bit to get started. So, Peter, did you need anything else from me, or wanted to make sure you? Okay, and you're good on sharing your screen and slides.
I think I've mastered it.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna be like hopping in and out of the different sessions, and so
okay, good.
I will see you, but you won't see me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I would say you probably can get started. Christo hasn't released everybody yet, but You probably want to get started maybe in 4 minutes or so, 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mhm. Hey, Peter,
Yes, sir.
if you want.
What did you say? All right. Good afternoon. And thanks for being here. Thanks for including the Small Business Development Center. My name's Peter Williams, and I am a business consultant here in Macon. And I work with small businesses throughout the 19 county region that our office covers here. And I appreciate the chance to talk with you about business planning and business research. And what I'd like to do, and I'm not sure if this is possible, but we're all getting used to these various online platforms, but would it be possible for people to type into the chat, maybe just introduce yourself quickly and tell me what business you're in or you're wanting to get into? If you could type that into chat, that would be helpful to me as we go along here. Okay, how about this? If you could type into chat if you're seeing the presentation.
Do you see the chat, Peter?
Sorry?
Do you see the chat?
Yes. Okay. I see Christelle typed in. Good. Okay, Christelle. That's good. Okay. Well, that's good enough for me. Well, I'll go with it. And Jonathan, former consultant, and you're working on a news media startup, and it's video first news outlet. Wonderful. I'll be curious to find out a lot more about that. I think we've got a need here in Macon, and I don't know if you're targeting this area, but I think there's probably a place for you, would be my guess. So thanks for being here. And let me introduce myself. I'll tell you what, I'll sort of introduce myself personally a little bit more along the way. But what I'm going to do now is share a screen and go to a PowerPoint structure to do my presentation. And again, thanks for having me and thanks for having the SBDC. And to tell you a little bit more about our organization, the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, is a partnership between the University of Georgia and the U.S. Small Business Administration. We are part of the University of Georgia, and where we fit into the university is in what's called the Public Service and Outreach Division, and our mission is what we wrote here on the screen. Our mission is to enhance the economic well-being of Georgians by providing a wide range of educational services for small business owners and aspiring small business owners. And we work with all kinds of businesses in classifications that we break down into 16 categories of industries. And those include accommodations and food service, for example, retail, healthcare, agriculture. And as I say, there's 16 categories. So, and every time we kind of pull the numbers over a period of time, the breakdown of what kinds of industries we're working with, it always kind of over time breaks down to be pretty equal among the 16 categories, which is interesting. Our Small Business Development Center was actually one of the first two in the United States. We've been around for over 40 years now. We were formed initially in the late 1970s, and we were chosen as one of the two states to pilot the program based upon the fact that they wanted it to work, and they looked at our university and they said, that's a university that's already engaging in outreach type services to the citizens and providing these kinds of educational resources. So there's now one in every state. And if we were together, I would ask for a show of hands to see if you have heard of us before today. But I'm going to hold that question for now and sort of keep rolling. The educational services that we provide, it takes two forms. And the first one is we provide at no cost confidential one-on-one business consulting offered by appointment. And normally we would have you come out and visit our office, which is out on Riverside Drive, kind of near the shops at River Crossing. I mentioned a minute ago that we cover 19 counties out of this Macon center here in Middle Georgia. So oftentimes we'll go to our client's location, or we'll go to a chamber of commerce in one of our counties and stake out a conference room and meet individually over the course of the day with 3 or 4 different clients. So we're pretty flexible about that, with the constant being that it's confidential and it's by appointment and it's at no cost. And then the other thing that we do is we provide low cost training and education programs that are offered to the public. And the programs cover small business topics that we believe the public would have an interest in and would attend. And I said they're low-cost training programs, and normally we do charge for our programs. The programs run anywhere between 1 hour to 5 days. There's really a range of depth that the programs cover. And this year, because of some CARES Act funding that we received, we actually have done all of our training programs, one online since about the middle of March, and also at no cost. And so people here in the state, in our region, have had the opportunity to come and check us out, check out our classes via webinar. And also, it's always been allowable for everybody in the state to take a class anywhere else in the state. But physical restrictions being what they are and travel time being what it is, most people stick to the region they're in. Our office offered about 25 programs each of the last 2 or 3 years. And most of who we drew from for those programs in prior years was within our 19 county region here. However, this year we've had people from all over the state. And the great thing is, if you were to go to our website, which is georgiasbdc.org, you would be able to choose from webinars being offered by all of our centers all over the state. So you would have about 18 times the range of choices this year. Now, next year, we are also going to be doing webinars, but we're gradually going to be moving back to doing in-person classes. And also, we're going to gradually move back, I think, to charging a low cost for our training and education programs. So anyway, that's what we do. We do the one-on-one consulting, and then we also do programs or classes. Okay. This is a map, and I always kind of like to point out on this map, the stars on the Georgia map here are the SBDC offices, and we do need to update this. This shows that there's 5 in the Atlanta area. There's actually 6 now. We've actually opened a new center at Morehouse University in Atlanta, but Macon is right here, kind of right in the middle of the state, which is it is what it is. But for us who work in this center, it's pretty nice because a lot of our internal meetings, when we have group meetings where we meet with other people from our organization in person, a lot of times we don't have to drive much because it's more convenient to have everybody come here because we're in the middle. But we have, as this shows, about 18 offices. And you might say, well, gee, wouldn't it be more efficient to have fewer offices? And maybe it would. All of our offices are similar in structure in that they have somewhere between 2 and 4, maybe even 5 business consultants and a support person, a program coordinator. But in keeping with our public service mission, we want to have our offices be physically accessible to as many citizens of the state, and I say accessible, easily accessible, within a reasonable drive. We wouldn't want people from Valdosta, for example, to have to drive to Atlanta just to see a business consultant. So we are dispersed physically around the state, and it looks like that. And our office in Macon, of course, is the one I'm familiar with. So some of our activities to date in 2020, we have actually worked with, and and I'm keeping my fingers crossed this is going to be accurate, because when I prepared this slide a couple days ago, we had actually worked with 4,998 clients. So I'm thinking that as of right now, we have exceeded 5,000 for the year. And we also have delivered continuing ed programs this year that have been attended by over 20,000 individuals. And we do a lot of teaching in other venues as well. And I'm not counting those. I'm counting just the programs that we created and ran, so to speak. That number, 20,000, is a really high number. And that's one of those things that, golly, this has been a tough year, and you kind of look for silver linings. And that's a big silver lining for us. Typically, that number of attendees is far smaller than that. But given the webinar basis, the no-cost basis, and the ability of people everywhere in the state or even beyond the state to take our programs without leaving home, has really enabled people to become familiar with us by taking our classes. And so that number is really high for us, and that gives us a lot of satisfaction. In the last 5 years, you might guess that we focus not just on numbers of people we interact with, but also impact. And we look at impact in these kind of categories primarily. First, our clients obtained, with our help, over $1 billion in capital from banks and from other investors. And the bulk of that has been growth and expansion capital. That also includes a certain amount of money this year that would fall into the COVID-19 or CARES Act financing. But that's not a lot of this $1 billion, I can assure you. Also, our existing business clients in the last 5 years have created about 14,000 new jobs, and our pre-venture clients actually started businesses totaling about 1,700 new businesses in the state of Georgia. To just tell you a little bit more about our Macon Center, we have 4 consultants here. Lisa Rackley is our area director, and Lisa, in addition to having leadership responsibilities for our area, is an award-winning consultant and a nationally recognized expert in the human resource category. She's known around the state and around the nation for being extremely knowledgeable in that area. So I always encourage my clients, especially the ones who are growing or starting a new business, hey, don't hire your first employee or don't hire your next employee before you come in, and let's sit down and talk with Lisa about, what are the compliance requirements you need to know about, what are some best practices you might want to consider as your staff grows and as your business grows. I'm Peter Williams. My background prior to joining the SBDC is as a small business owner. I owned and operated a merger and acquisition advisory firm for 11 years, which I founded. And prior to that, I was a CFO of a venture capital-backed internet startup, and did some things in the investment world before that. Jessica White joined our organization in 2018. No, I'm sorry, 2019. She joined us last year. And Jessica's got a great marketing background, and she's been extremely well received by the public and by her clients since she has joined us. And then Teresa Robinson has joined us most recently. Teresa is actually recently retired from Georgia Power, and we were able to entice her to come back and go back to work and help small businesses. And just in our office, again, let's look at impact. This year, we've assisted about 400 clients so far this year, including those obtaining over $20 million in financing. And I'm going to say, and counting. We've got several more that we think are going to close before the end of the year. So our consulting services include capital assistance, marketing assistance, both digital and traditional. We help clients with accounting and financial management issues, management and strategic planning, and I mentioned human resource. Now, one thing that is, I think, distinctive about most of our consultants is most of us are generalists, and we can help clients kind of across the board, from startups to larger small businesses that have been around for a while, in all of these areas. And we do co-consult with each other at times if there's an issue that comes up. But for the most part, we are generalists with some exceptions. We do have some targeted units where that's all they do. And they are our international trade group, which is actually nationally recognized. And here's another one. If you're getting ready to import or export anything, let's talk. And I'd love to connect you with our international trade consultants. They are amazing. I have called them numerous times in the 8 years that I've been here, with a question about a country or a location. And you don't have to preview them or prep them. I've never stumped them yet. You'll get just right back when you mention a country. They'll know kind of what's going on there, what the key issues are, how to operate there, how to export there, how to import from there. They're amazing. Our minority business development group is focused on government contracting, and in particular, some of those certifications like 8A for minority-owned businesses, hub zone businesses, or women-owned small businesses. They're really in depth on those types of things, how you achieve those certifications, and then how you market those certifications. We have a medical practice management group that consults with physician practices, and they actually teach in some med schools as well. And what they teach there is the business side of medicine. And so that naturally is very specialized, and the folks that we've got in that group are really unreal, very, very smart. A resource I wanted to let you know about that the University of Georgia publishes annually in June is called Small Business and Its Impact on Georgia. And I love to hand this out. If you'd like to have one, please feel free to email me. For that or for any other reason, please feel free to email me. And I will send you actually a link to that publication for the last several years. And you can pick and choose the one that you'd most like to have. Okay, so that's who we are and what we do. Let's talk about business planning. And business planning is something that probably, this is Macon Startup Week, right? So I'm assuming that, what did I do there? I'm assuming that most of the folks participating this week are maybe doing their business plan with an eye towards starting their business. And that's great. And I'll be happy to help you. I'd be happy to answer questions today or or sometime next week if you want to give me a call. But business planning is something that we always encourage our clients to continue to do, to write that first business plan, but to actually carve out some time for yourself as you go down the way and run your business and grow your business. But periodically stop back in to the planning exercise and look ahead, look at what's worked, look at what kinds of opportunities might be out there to do things differently or to do more of the things that worked well. But let's talk about business planning and business researching on business planning. And why do we want to do a business plan? And developing a business plan, one, it forces you to do research, right? But let's step back from that for a second. It forces you to carefully examine all aspects of your business. And I'm talking about a written business plan. It forces you to analyze the factors that could affect you. What could happen? What are the contingencies out there? It forces you to ask the tough questions. Many times when we are writing a business plan as an entrepreneur, we're writing it for an audience other than ourselves. And that audience might be for family members. That can be a big decision if we have a family and we're wanting to start a business. It's not just us. The whole family, if they're directly hands-on in the business or not, they're affected by it, and it's probably wise to share the business plan with them, and they're probably going to ask some questions. So would lenders, so would bankers, so would potential investors, and those are some other reasons that we write a business plan. So we anticipate what are going to be the questions we receive. Business plan forces you to make decisions before you have to. You're making your mistakes on paper, but you're thinking ahead and you're thinking about contingencies, about what might happen. And then as time goes on and circumstances change and developments occur, we're able to say, well, I thought it might go that way. That was one of the things I thought might happen, and it's now happened. Well, I've thought about it, and I've got some action plans to respond to that contingency. So that's some reasons we want to have a business plan when we're starting out. And so what should a business plan contain? And I would suggest a few things for you if you are really at the beginning stage of a business plan. And the first one is I would go to this website, agplan.com. And it sounds crazy. You're not all agricultural businesses, but this is actually in fact, I'd guess very few of you are. But this is a website that was, it is run by a state university, the University of Minnesota, and they developed this originally for agricultural businesses, but it now applies to every business. And it is an online, it's cloud-based, and it's an online business plan template that you can use to write your business plan. And you can literally click through the sections that they have, and it's free, by the way. And the way that it works is when you click on a section for a business plan, say marketing plan, you click that and a window opens up that you can type in, but there's actually several tabs there. And the tabs include research resources. So you could click on that to research, to get access to resources to research marketing for your plan. It gives some sample write-ups for sections like the one that you're working on then. And then the other thing that's really great about this particular tool is you can actually register a business plan reviewer. You can give access to your plan to a business plan reviewer. And I have clients do that with me all the time. And basically what you do, I have an account there, so they know my email address. So you just let me know through the system, I'm ready for you to review the plan. I get a notification and I'm able to review it right there. And then the other thing that's great about the tool is you're able to convert this into a Word document or a PDF. You can work on it one section at a time with resources that are intensive, that allow you to dig deeper and really focus on one area at a time. But with a couple presses of a button, it pulls it all together in a format, in a Word format that you can look at all at once or share with somebody all at once. It's really nice. There are some other there are some other tools available. There are thousands of business plan sort of tools out there. I would encourage you to don't spend any money on them. All you need in terms of business plan resources is covered by all of the free resources that are available. There are just oceans of free business plan templates. If you want a good one good one is the SBA template. The SBA business plan template, I have worked with lots of clients who I can tell that that's where they got their template. That's what they're working from. And it's out there. It's in common use. It is recommended in some cases. It is not concise. That is one thing it is not. However, that can be good if your business plan purpose is for yourself to really do an in-depth operating plan. A 30-page plan is not out of the realm of being useful. If you're trying to write a plan for a lender, 5 to 7 pages is about all you need. We have a couple of templates here at the SBDC that we've developed and for business plans, and one of them is it's an outline, but then for each of the sections, what we find is that where people run into difficulty with writing a business plan, if they're not into writing or if they're not experienced in writing a business plan, is sometimes they'll get writer's block. And we have developed this template. It's sort of question and answer based. For each of the sections, we have a half dozen or more questions. And what we have found in working with entrepreneurs is they're able easily, they get excited, in fact, about answering questions. It gets it past that writer's block. And so we tell people, go ahead and use this template and start just writing out answers. And you'll start to have sentences and snippets and so forth that gradually you'll combine them into paragraphs and put them into the outline, and you've got something you can work with. So there's lots of ways to kind of skin the cat here. And let's just sort of say what we have found is that it all sort of starts with testing the initial viability of the plan. And excuse me one second. So the way to do that is to think about your business idea as a statement. And so you might make a statement. There is a need for a sporting goods store to serve the city of Startup Land. So this scenario would be your business idea is a sporting goods store, and you're going to open that sporting goods store in Startup Land. And what you want to do then is you want to identify ways that you can either falsify that statement or validate that statement. And that's really what research is all about, is it helps us to, as best we can, because nobody knows the future. Lord knows, think about what you were doing a year ago today. Would you have imagined? Could you have possibly planned for what happened? So sometimes you just can't. But as often as possible, you want to just think about all the questions that would enable you to confirm or falsify your basic premise for starting your business. So what might be some challenges here that could help us to form the basis for our business research? And they came in all at once instead of one at a time. Well, how many sporting goods stores are there now? Answering that question would take a little bit of research, and it would also be important. And there's no right number there. For example, suppose the number is 0. Does that mean it's automatically a good idea that there's a need for a store? Not necessarily. Why aren't there any? Have there ever been any? How did they do? If there's none here now, where are people getting their sporting goods? Oh, well, they go to Walmart. There's a big Walmart, and there's a Target, and the next town over has 3 big sporting goods stores. So that's where they're getting it. So if you said, well, there's no sporting goods stores here now, you still have to kind of think about the implications, right? But that's a good starting point. There's a need for it now. Okay, how many are there now? How much business do they have if there are stores here now? How do the residents who live in startup land feel about their options right now? What are the demographic trends in startup land? We have some resources at the SBDC that we subscribe to, and we're able to actually really look carefully at the propensity to spend money on certain activities or products or services. And we can get really in depth in looking at the demographics of a certain area. If you were to name a street address that you were thinking of putting in a sporting goods store, we would be able to help you to find out, again, based on some databases that we subscribe to, we would be able to help you find out what's the traffic in that area. What's the propensity of people in a 5-mile radius or a 3-mile radius or a distance that you would define to spend money on sporting goods, to participate in sporting events, to watch sports on TV, to coach youth sports leagues and so forth. And so you can get a really good picture of just what are the demographics and even the psychographics, what kinds of interests people have, that can be really helpful in doing a sporting goods store or any other kind of a retail business. Certainly a restaurant is a classic kind of retail business that are opening and closing all the time. So test that initial viability by doing lots of research. And why do we want to do a lot of research? Let's look at this. Accurate information leads to better business decisions for all of the reasons I kind of alluded to. Generally speaking, the better information you have, the more likely you are to make a correct business decision. But also, don't overlook, if you are writing your business plan for an audience that is important, an audience like investors or a banker or your family, or even even employees. You might use your business plan as a recruiting tool. If you were trying to attract people to work for your new small business, you probably would share your business plan. Well, the more well-researched that plan is, the more persuasive it is. So, for example, if you have sprinkled kind of throughout your business plan, when you make a statement of fact about, in that example about a sporting goods store in startup land, if you make a statement of fact and you put in parentheses, and I know one of our persons here, being in the news media, you would, I'm sure, be really well attuned to this, according to so-and-so, or parentheses, source U.S. Census Bureau, or whatever it is. In other words, you're not putting forth the business plan, all of the information in business plan with you as the sole authority, but you're backing it up with third-party experts or databases or recognized sources of information that an audience would see. One thing you want to think about with research, oftentimes we have worked with clients who are actually changing industry, and maybe they've worked in one industry and they're looking to either acquire a business, which is a form of entrepreneurship, or they're just going to start a new business in an industry they haven't worked in. And we always caution those kind of folks. It's wonderful that you're wanting to do that, but you're going to need to do even more research than somebody else might, and take more time for it, just to make sure that what you lack in experience, you're able to not miss some of those key nuances because you've done your research. Generally, you want to start with general information first. Now, what kind of research? I get real interested in the research side of things, in looking at the two different categories of research. And the first category of research is what's called primary research. And primary research is research that you create. You as an entrepreneur, you actually create the information that constitutes primary research. And how do you do it? Several ways. You might create primary research through your personal observation. You might create primary research through interviews, information interviews with people in the industry. You might do surveys, and I've had lots of clients who have done that. The survey platforms that are free to use now make doing surveys really easy. You might do focus groups where you bring a group of people together, and this is totally qualitative stuff when you're working with a focus group. You're just listening to how they talk and what kinds of things they talk about when you ask open-ended questions about your industry or the business idea that you have. You could actually create primary research by talking to competitors. And I can think of numerous examples in my experience in this job where I've had clients who have reached out to people who have a similar business to the one that they're getting ready to start or acquire. And most often, the best result they have is when that, quote, competing business is not really competing. They're in a different geographic location. And this happens all the time when people are looking to start a franchise business. The franchisor will give them, oh, sure, you can talk to 10 of our franchisees. Here's their numbers. And they make the 10 calls, and probably 2 or 3 are just really helpful. and then the majority of them never even return the call. But that's life. So primary research. And then the second type of research that we do is called secondary research. And secondary research is the type of thing where you're consulting experts. You're researching, you're going to the library, figuratively speaking. You're checking the Census Bureau data. You're going and digging into research that's already been done by somebody else. It's secondary to you. Here's some examples of some sources of information for secondary research. And the first one is the Census Bureau. And I've alluded to that a couple times, but if you go to census.gov and you really dig into that, you can get, it's unbelievable the amount of information that's available. And, every 10 years we do a census of the population, and they're actually renewing information within that Census Bureau more frequently than that. But they do an economic census. You can drill down to county business patterns, reports on certain industries. It's all available. Some state data centers, census.gov/quickfacts is a tremendous resource. And I'm going to plug georgiadata.org. And let me, if I can, I'm going to try to share my screen here. Unshare my screen, I should say. Okay. Well, I'm not going to be able to share that screen. Well, that's okay. That's all right. I'll just call it out to you as georgiadata.org. That is actually a website that is recently developed, and it is developed and managed by the Carl Vinson Institute of Public Policy, which is a part of the University of Georgia, and it's a part of the Public Service and Outreach Division. So they're kind of I think we can call them a sister organization to the Small Business Development Center. And then the other thing I would strongly recommend is check out associations, industry associations. There is a publication called Encyclopedia of Organizations, which is updated periodically. It's a business. Somebody is in the business of printing, researching, and selling that encyclopedia. I believe it's available online now as well. But trade associations can be extremely valuable pieces of information. And especially if you can look at, I'll give you a related resource in a minute that is worth its weight in gold. Okay. Now, I want to shift just real quickly and give you a couple of examples of primary research that you might enjoy hearing about. I have been impressed with them so much that I tell stories about them. I had, in the fall of 2013, I got a call from a person who lived in Warner Robins, who was in the real estate business, and she called and she sounded kind of frantic on the phone, and she wanted some help. She had a great idea. She wanted, and her husband wanted to bring a certain franchise in the food industry to Central Georgia. And at that time, it wasn't here. It was a growing franchise in kind of the mid-Atlantic and even in the Atlanta area, but hadn't quite made it here yet. And she was really excited about the opportunity. They had talked with the franchisor, and she needed to put together a loan proposal, and the bank had suggested that she call me, because that's what we do, is we help folks get ready to go to the bank and do financial projections and write a business plan. So we made an appointment, and she said, well, wait a minute. One last thing. And she said something about Facebook. She had checked something out on Facebook, and a lot of people seemed to like the franchise, and should I print it out? And I said, well, sure, print it out. And I wasn't really sure what she was talking about until she got here. And she had about a 500-page printout. And what she had done is she was in a Facebook group, and it was like Mothers of Middle Georgia. And she had just asked a question in there. Hey, if somebody brought and she named the name of the franchise here to Middle Georgia, would you be excited about that? Do you know about it? Would you go to it? And the responses were, that was the stack of paper that she had. And what made that valuable is, that old question, well, who are your first 10 customers? No, I don't mean in general. I mean their names. Well, she had a list of her first 500 customers or more, because Facebook, you kind of have to say who you really are, right? And so that was just a classic example. And I said, ma'am, I think you have a business plan. She really, that was just powerful. And that's primary research, right? Okay, another client who was interested in starting a business that was in the, what do we want to call it? In the entertainment field. He wanted to get a place in downtown Macon. And we were doing the financial projections. Well, how many people do you think a place like that would attract? And he said, well, there's some competing businesses down there. And he threw out a number of, how many per day he thought would come to his business. And it sounded a little high to me. I'm not in the negative business or shooting ideas down at all. It just seemed a little high. But even if it hadn't, I would have said the same thing, which is, well, what are you basing that on? So I said, what are you basing it on? And he said, well, I've gone down there and hung around outside my competitors' places for an hour at a time, 3 times a day, periodically for the last several weeks. And I've counted the kind of number of people that have gone in and out. That's primary research. And that's a good way to do it. I mean, that's, it gets to the point, right? So that's a couple of resources for secondary research, and then some ideas for primary research. Let's give you some other resources. And Google Trends is one that more and more people know about. I'm often am able to sort of whip this out and show people, and they haven't ever heard of it. That's getting less common. More and more people have heard of google.com/trends. It is an amazing resource. You call it up on your computer, you go to the search thing at the very top, it is Google, and you type in a word or a series of words, and Google will tell you, are people searching for that? Is that a commonly searched term? And they'll show the search frequency over time, and they'll allow you to drill down geographically. If you're wanting to see, Well, how many people searched for a term like sporting goods store in Middle Georgia? You type in sporting goods store, scroll down to the map, click on Georgia, click down to the Middle Georgia region. You can even drill down by zip code. I've had a client use this very directly. She had a product that was in the addressed to people who use vision boards. And if you know what vision boards are, they're something that are in use coming up here pretty soon, this time of year. It's something people do right at the start of the year. When the football part of our society is watching the bowl games on New Year's Eve, the vision board part of our society is having vision board parties often and getting a start on their vision boards. So about October, a client and I were planning for her rolling out this product. And I said, well, let's look at Google Trends to see if we can get an idea geographically. I knew the searches would be around the first of the year. So we typed it in. They spiked up around the first of the year before. And I said, okay, well, let's zero in on that time frame and then zero in geographically. And we were able to look, we zeroed in on a zip code in Atlanta, which had by far the highest frequency of searches, anywhere near here. And that was extremely valuable information. That's secondary research. So google.com/trends. Another great resource is smartbrief.com. And smartbrief.com is a database. Well, that's not the right way to say it. Smartbrief.com is a think tank, you might say. And what they do is they aggregate information that's in the news about dozens and dozens and dozens of different industries. And if you go to smartbrief.com, you can actually sign up to receive a daily email, which is a news digest with links to articles in any industry that you might choose. And that can really help you to stay on top of what's going on an ongoing basis, not just during your planning process, but certainly during your planning process, being immersed in that industry information that smartbrief.com will provide, and it's free. This is a free resource, as is Google Trends. So consider going there and subscribing to a few newsletters, and they're free and they're full of information. That sort of saves you the trouble of doing a Google alert, sort of setting up a Google alert yourself, which I have found don't work that well. Smartbrief.com puts it all together and sends you a nicely packaged email. Another resource is earningscast.com. And earningscast.com is a tremendous resource. All publicly traded companies who you could go to your broker, go to your E-Trade and buy stock, they're a publicly traded company. Those companies have to report their earnings on a quarterly basis. It's a requirement. And what the vast majority of them do is they have a conference call. And the conference call includes top management, the CEO, usually the CFO, and maybe some other top people from the C-suite at those companies. And they talk about what happened in the last quarter and what do we see going forward. And naturally, part of what they're talking about and addressing is, well, we had these results based on some industry trends. That's always one of the things they comment on. And what are some things we see in the industry going forward? So if you're starting a business in which there are publicly traded companies currently, or there are publicly traded companies in a business that's related to the one you're about to start, that the business you're about to start might depend on that industry, even if you're in a different one. That can be incredibly valuable information. Well, earningscast.com is free, and you can just scroll through and you can hit the link and you can listen. They store recordings of all these earnings casts, these earnings broadcasts. And the broadcasts are not one way. They take questions, and they take questions from really smart industry analysts who are familiar with their company and are asking very direct questions. So it's great dialogue. It's you learn a lot from the management folks who are speaking, and then the industry experts who are questioning them bring information to the table that's very valuable too. And then finally, the expodatabase.com is a listing of trade shows. And you say, well, okay, I'm just trying to write a business plan, not necessarily go to a trade show. Well, you might not want to go to a trade show, especially now, because they're all virtual. But once we get back to doing trade shows, well, even now that they're virtual, the people that run trade shows, that's a business. And when they put together an agenda for their trade show, it better be appealing to the people in the industry that the trade show pertains to, right? So they're in the business of researching, what do these people want? What are the current issues in this industry? And what kinds of information do people in this industry need to know about? Because if our show isn't about that, and we send out flyers that this is what the show is going to be about, and we missed, nobody's going to come to the show. So trade shows are doing a lot of your research for you if the trade show is about your industry. Just look at the trade show agendas and see if there's any big issues that you missed. So that's another great resource that I think is unique, that you might not have thought of. I hope it's new to you, and I hope it's helpful to you. How are we doing on time? Well, we're running a little long. If you'd like more information from us, please reach out. This is our phone number, and Trudy Lawrence is our program coordinator, and she'll answer the phone and get you to the right resource. And so, okay. Looks like Jonathan is still here and Christelle is still here. Wonderful. Well, Jonathan, I appreciate you saying that, and I hope you'll give us a call. Please call that number I just showed, and Trudy will just tell her you saw you're calling because you were at my program, and you'd like to talk to me, and she'll get you on the calendar. Okay. Well, I've taken up more time than I really had here, and that's because I love what I do. So hopefully that showed through anyway. I hope I didn't take too much of your time, but thank you for being here, and we'll Daphne, it looks like you're still here too. So that's good. The same goes for you. I hope that you'll call, and it looks like Daquanis is still here. Daquanis, you're welcome to call as well. And with that, I will I'll sign off, I guess. And thank you for being here, and I'll look forward to hearing from you hearing from you soon. You're welcome very much. You're very welcome. Okay.